Hello, Snow.
Hi,
That was so weird. Hello, Snow. How does it feel when it starts getting to summer and your name's Snow?
It's amazing. I gotta admit, for someone whose name is Snow, I really don't like the winter time, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good. Are you just like, hi, I'm Snow, I'm gonna go chill in the sun, and people are like, are you gonna melt, babe?
Yeah, well, I always melt in the sun too. I'm like frying, I'm red, but yeah.
Well, listen, it's really, really, really lovely to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So we met at uni, at UWL, and we just kind of like got on, didn't we?
Yeah.
Which is always nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just really wanted to get you on today because obviously one of the things we connected over was electronic music, was DJing.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting when you first came over. I mean, the thing is obviously I knew about US dubstep and UK dubstep, right?
Yeah.
But I hadn't really like come into close contact.
Right, yeah.
You know, because I grew up in London, so for me it was just like UK, like it's not even UK dubstep for us, it's dubstep, you know.
Right,
and then I talked to you and you're like, oh, okay, that's called world bass. It's just like a completely different thing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I probably classify that more in like the bass genre, world bass genre. Yeah, because like dubstep, at least in the US, sits at around like 140, 150 BPM, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like bassy music sits at like maybe like 110, 100,
What,
or
here?
90, between 90 and 110 sometimes, or like the bass, slow bass music.
Okay, yeah, because UK dubstep is 140, like to the point where we will kind of just, you know, sort of affectionately call it 140.
Yeah.
Oh, what you doing? I'm going to, you know, play some 140, or drum and bass, what you had last night, 160. That's what we call it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny when you came over because I was like trying to pull out all my big guns, like all my bassiest tunes, and you were just like, this is really quaint. This is so nice. You were like, this is so nice, but like, where's the bass? You know, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, that's all I've got. Like,
I think it was because we were listening to it on an amp, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. But like, I don't know. I don't know what I was playing that night either, but I was playing some like funky bass that was like,
you had some fucking tunes, you know. Like, it was sick. It was sick. But yeah, so there is definitely sort of a big kind of difference there in terms of what we even sort of class as bass. Like, for example, with US dubstep, I've seen that like the bass that you guys have is very like over the top. It's kind of like what a UK jump up would be, maybe.
Yeah, it's really heavy, and I think that stems from like the metalcore culture in like 2012 to 2014.
So talk me through metalcore. What is this?
So metalcore is kind of like a branch off of like metal, and so around like 2010 to maybe 2014, like the metal scene or metalcore scene was really popular around like the older Gen Z generation. So you would go see these bands. They were like classic screamo bands. So think like maybe Bring Me the Horizon kind of stuff. Yeah, that was very popular in the US, and there was a whole subculture there. And so I think when those kids got older, we all got older, we kind of like moved away from that kind of scene and moved towards like the electronic scene. But you'll hear some of the heavy stuff today is very influenced I think, from that period of time. So when you go to dubstep shows in the US, there's moshing, you know, there's you know, like I haven't seen crowd surfing quite yet, but there's like mosh pits and, you know, the classic headbanging, and so people with tattoos, kind of like that style but in a different way. And I think that's why that's where it's been influenced a little bit. Yeah,
that makes sense. And do you know what's really interesting is, as you just said that, so most UK rave heads, like most people into like UK electronic music, funnily enough, had the same thing. We grew up with bands.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like quite a big thing. Like, we grew up with like the whole emo scene, you know, particularly dubstep, because it originates from like the early 2000s.
Right.
And so we just grew up at that time, you know, with bands basically, and then it kind of translated from bands to. So it's really funny that it's the same in America.
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah, that's crazy.
So it originates from metal.
I don't know if it originates from metal, but it's very largely influenced by metal, and
Wow.
the subculture, like, I think moved over just a bit, or crossed over just a bit. I think kids growing up in those days wanted to start their own bands and be in a band when they grew up, but being in a band logistically is very difficult because you're dealing with more than one person. Everybody has to be like a really technically skilled musician
And get along well enough to not kill each other.
Yeah, 100%. And so then, you know, if you think about dubstep, like, you know, or DJing, you can learn yourself, and you can, all of that weight falls onto you. So I think like a big culture immersed from that. So you still get to see a crowd headbang and mosh to your music, you know, a similar way, but you're not responsible for caretaking, you know, 5 other people or 4 other people in a band, you know.
100%, and dealing with the artistic egos of all of you, you know, and kind of trying to like manage that can be really difficult.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, you're not just a DJ though, are you?
No.
You are also an electronic music composer.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. So talk me through that. Like, I know your course is pretty intense, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, this is the first time in school where I'm struggling. I'm fighting for my life. In a good way, though. It's made me grow technically, like, really fast, exponentially. But I started out as like a singer-songwriter.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, Snow. God, you've got so many tricks up your sleeve.
Yeah, I used to be like a pop songwriter, or like that's the kind of style that would just come out when I was songwriting. And I would play piano and sing, you know. And then I wanted to like get my songs produced, and every single time I tried to hire somebody, they were not getting like this vision that I had. It sounded very commercial, and I just could not stand like where I was being placed in there. So I tried to experiment with like production, and I only did it like maybe a couple times before getting really serious about it in 2020 when we had a lockdown. So like in order to submit my work to classes, I had to record it and send it in, you know, through the like university website. So I decided like during that time to be really creative with the way that I was sending it in, instead of just sending it like a video of me with guitar and or piano and me just singing. Like I wanted to like make a production out of it for like all of my songwriting courses. So I ended up getting into production then, and then I got really passionate about it, you know, started making stuff really fast, and then I felt like I grew a lot and really fast too, and every single time I produce a song, I'm way better than it, like the last one.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So you get that reward of like the progression, and you feel like you're actually kind of getting somewhere with it.
Yeah.
Well, I totally relate to what you're saying about when you were a singer-songwriter and you're trying to get people to like see your vision, and it's just not coming out that way.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a singer-songwriter, and I've got so many songs sat there that I'm essentially gatekeeping because I can't find
like
the correct, like I've some of them I've produced them like 3 or 4 times with different producers, and it's just like it's not me and it's not right.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly the problem I was having, and that's why I moved into production.
Yeah.
You know, and that gave me a whole other level of like creative freedom, I think, and I think it's really helpful, you know, even if it's just the bare bones production. Oh my gosh, you know, you get to finally make something you always wanted come to life, you know.
100%. And like, why do you think you went down the more electronic music route rather than like producing yourself, doing the singer-songwriter stuff? Do you think it was kind of like the transition from metalcore to US dubstep? But for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a huge like electronic and rave scene where I grew up. Both in New Mexico and Colorado, like, you know, electronic music started to get really big, especially around 2014 and like the Flume Odessa era. So I think the reason why I gravitated towards electronic music was I always like to listen to interesting stuff, and I am influenced by the rave culture, but also I really connect with like bass. You know, there's something in my body that like, you know, really like just resonates with like bass frequencies. And then on top of it, it's like you can sound design stuff out of thin air and make things really interesting. And I'm also a person that really likes weird sounds, and like that's something that just like makes my brain tingle, you know? So I can throw in those things and be as experimental as I want, but also keep it commercial as well, you know? Whereas in pop, you know, they like to put in the more traditional instruments and maybe throw like one left field element in, whereas I can keep the standard songwriting structure but throw in a lot of really
left field stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they say that bass is like the most frequency. It's the most healing frequency.
That makes sense, because like there's something about it when you go to a show with a subwoofer and it just like it awakens something.
My god, it's insane. I like the whoop 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 whoop.
The whoop whoop
they're
sounds.
They're
those
like
my favorite. Yeah, those are my favorite too.
But is whoop 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 even the same for us?
Whoop,
you know,
whoop.
like
yeah.
Whoop 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 whoop. It's just there's just something about it. But yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, because obviously you're from the States.
Yeah.
As we've established. Whereabouts exactly are you from in the States?
I was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
And I grew up there for 16 years and then moved to Denver. And so then I've been living there like more of my adult life. So I have a really strong connection with Colorado in particular, but I have a very deep love for Santa Fe and New Mexico in general, you know. But Colorado gave me a lot of opportunities and made me grow as a person really like exponentially, and that's where I found like, you know, my soul in a way is like there. Like I had opportunities there that I wouldn't have had in New Mexico.
Like what?
School opportunities.
Okay.
Like educational opportunities in music and technology, and you know, New Mexico is a beautiful place with amazing people.
Amazing mountains, right? Or is
amazing
that in
mountains, amazing mountains. It's a high altitude desert.
Woo.
And it's got an incredible culture. So you go there, like all of the houses are made out of adobe, and the
What's
food
adobe?
It's a mud mixed with hay. It's a structural thing. So it's got its own style. It's influenced from like the Pueblo Native Americans. And that's where it originates from. And then the Spanish settlers came in that area and kind of settled it, but that's where that structure's kind of originally, you know, from. But New Mexico has...
So the Native Americans came in to the Spanish people?
They were there first. And
who were there first?
The natives.
Okay,
and so then the Spaniards came and colonized.
Oh, okay. Yeah. God.
And so it's like one of the oldest cities in the United States, and has some of the oldest structures in the United States, like the Taos Pueblo. It's a really gorgeous place, but it has really heavy history, and there's a lot of systemic issues there of poverty and lack of education because of the horrific things that took place there. It's like generational trauma, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
and
that's
it holds there. Yeah, so like growing up there, I was exposed to things that I think were very tough for any adolescent to be exposed to. And so when I came to Colorado, I was very hardened, if that makes sense. Like I was in survival mode.
Yep.
And I hadn't like cried in like, you know, 5 or 6 years. And that's where like I just went through like, you know, that ego death and breaking down, and then
Dark
rebuilding.
Night of the Soul.
Yeah. Probably the biggest one.
Yep.
And so Colorado, I was given way more opportunities as far as education. I'm very grateful and lucky to have gotten that.
And an opportunity to heal and rest, it sounds like, as well, and like process a little bit.
Yeah. And when you're living in it, you don't think anything is wrong.
You think it's normal.
Yeah. And then when you leave, you have to deal with all of that, and then it sucks because I have like a lot of survivor's guilt, you know. And so part of the reason why I go out and do what I do is because like I know that there are people back home in Santa Fe that are really cheering me on. Yeah. And I've done stuff that they have never seen done before in their immediate circle, and I think it's really important for me to pave a path so that they know that they can walk that path too.
Yeah, it's trailblazing, isn't it? It's like, because it's hard for people to imagine something out of thin air, especially if they've lived a life that's had, you know, a fair amount of like disadvantage and oppression. You know, and you're sort of like, you have to worry about putting food on the table. You can't even begin to think about a bigger picture, or, you know, like a better life. You just can't even afford to, you know?
Yeah, you're dealing with violence, you're dealing with drugs, you're dealing with poverty, you're dealing with racism, you're dealing with all of it.
Systematic racism as well, like hundreds of years of oppression.
Yeah, hundreds of years, and they still have, there's still things in place that are really suppressing to the local people, and it's hard. So you grow up there and you see a lot of stuff that, no kids should see, but it's all around you. The beautiful thing, though, is, like, as you get older, there's a community. So going to high school there, like, there was no such thing as like, cliques, like, that I found in Colorado, going to Colorado, where, like, the popular group or whatever. Everybody was so much in survival mode that, like, if you were just, cool,
turning up to school every day.
If you were turning up to school, you pretty much knew everybody and you were friends. For the most part, people had beef, but it was like there wasn't cliques. You had a community because everybody had suffered already.
Yeah.
Everybody had been through some stuff, and so, like, that was kind of peaceful. You never felt like you were the odd one out or had been the only one to experience some kind of, like, really immense trauma, And so in Colorado, when I moved, like, I felt very isolating because I was like,
because you're, like, trying to, like, socialize with these new people that, like, quite rightly so, haven't been through some of the things you've been through, and you feel so different to them. And I'm not, but, like, you've got this, like, deep anxiety, like, I'm bad, and they're gonna see it, and they're gonna see through me, and I'm never gonna fit in, and and I think, like, when you navigate that and you start to work through that, like, you are, like, 22 years old, right? You're, like, so wise and grown, so it's like it is a testament to your character. Like, you've got one of the sort of firmest, nicest characters I've ever come across, across the years I've been knocking about. So but anyway, I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
Oh my god, I totally spaced it, but no, 100%. It is very isolating. So when I moved up there, like, you're right. Those kids hadn't suffered, and it did put me in, like, a very isolated position, at least in high school, where, like, I couldn't talk about those things. Those things seemed way out there or, traumatic, and it was, incredibly isolating. And I was very angry for, like, 2 years after moving, and I felt like I don't understand why these people have never been through anything. They're so privileged. I had a lot of, like, apathy towards them.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, it's not their fault, and they have to deal with.
And everybody's got their own trauma as well, and trauma's relative.
Yeah, trauma is relative. Suffering is relative. Like, if you hadn't gone through anything in your life, and then all of a sudden your parents got divorced, and that's your only reference point for suffering, it's gonna feel like the end of the world. So they do go through their own things, and then also it's like they're gonna have to deal with stuff later on in life, that,
exactly.
Might be very difficult, and it's not their fault. But I did have a lot of anger there, where it's like,
no, 100%, and I'm not invalidating that. Injustice is, like, not a nice. It's hard to get used to the fact that, like, the world's not fair, and you've kind of just got to, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not fair, but also it's like, those people. I didn't have compassion for them then, but I have a lot of compassion and empathy now.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, like, develop it.
Yeah, after I've, like, healed myself, it was like, it's not their fault. They have lived a different life. Like, they're going to go through their own things in life, That's going to feel very devastating on their point of reference. And, that's that. Like, it's okay. We all go through things. And then, once I had more compassion, then you can talk and relate to those people. They're not going to be, like, in my inner circle per se, but, like, they are beautiful people. They're just trying to live like everybody else is trying to live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's. Am I in your inner circle? You're, like, just laughing it off. You're like, I ain't saying anything. So, how have you found it moving to the UK?
It's great. I love the UK. It was very different at first, but it wasn't quite as shocking as, like, moving from New Mexico to Colorado as it was from Colorado here, weirdly enough.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah.
Ah.
I felt like I could kind of really dive in here really fast. And I think school helped, but, like, socializing was really easy once I figured out the bus and train system. It was fine, you know. The one thing that's hard is the weather,
Oh, really?
Seasonal
but
depression.
your name's Snow.
Oh, I know. That seasonal depression really does hit hard. Take your vitamin D if you live in a cloudy area, that's for sure.
100%. I take like 9,000 mg
I need to do
a day.
some more. I got like a full spectrum light bulb for my room. Yeah.
Oh my god. So listen, we are gonna wrap up soon. I could talk to you all day. But I just got a couple more questions really. So you've told me that you've played some big shows in the States.
Yeah, some decently big shows.
And how does it feel? Because I've not played DJ to a big crowd. How does it feel?
It feels absolutely amazing. What's interesting is those shows are a lot easier to do than those sparse ones.
Yeah, because you can see everyone in front of you and you're like, oh god.
Yeah, like when you're playing to an empty room and there's, a couple people that are not vibing, like it just feels like the weight of the world is on your chest. Whereas like, walking onto a stage with a big crowd, everybody's like feeding energy off of each other and they're just excited, to
exactly.
there.
They're excited for a drop. They're just like,
It's really fun and like, but playing the small shows though, sometimes it gets really intimate and you make the best connections there too, but.
So, before we finish, any parting words on what's the main difference for you between US and UK dubstep?
I'm gonna say like the US dubstep is a little bit heavier. UK dubstep I feel like is a little more chill. That could just be my desensitized opinion. Both are great. I think the UK is obviously phenomenal in like drum and bass, but you guys were the originators of dubstep, so I mean I gotta give it to you guys. You guys invented it, so
Thank you.
I can't knock it. You guys are king. Yeah.
Well, now you guys can decide for yourselves because I'm going to play some tunes and I will let you know when they are dubstep, UK dubstep, and then Snow's going to come after me and have her own mix. Thank you so much, Snow. You've been like really, really nice to chat to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been amazing.
And
Thank
it's
you
been
so
really
much.
nice to hear everything and I really enjoyed that.
You're a wonderful person. Thank you so much for having me on.
So are you. All right, my love. Well, I'm just going to take over the airways for a bit now and then I will let you guys know when Snow's coming.